Readings of Almighty God's Words. The responsibilities of leaders and workers. The responsibilities of leaders and workers, 24. What should our attitude be toward the hostility and monitoring by satanic regimes? Should we reject and avoid it, or simply ignore it? First, think about this. Does the church fear them monitoring any of the work it does? Do we have any secret activities? Do we make any anti-state or anti-government political statements?
No.
This can be affirmed. Believing in God never involves participating in politics. Most of you have believed in God for more than 3 years, some even for 20 or 30 years. Over all these years of listening to sermons, has anyone ever found the church make anti-state or anti-social statements? Not in the slightest. God's house never discusses politics. Moreover, the Church of Almighty God is established by God. It is a foretaste of God's kingdom on earth, not an organization formed by any person, not established by any individual. So, what is the work that God established the church to do? It is not to engage in anti-social, anti-religious, or anti-political work. What then is the church's work? Firstly, its main work is to spread the good news of God, becoming flesh to save humankind in the last days, allowing humankind to accept all the truths expressed by God so that they might turn to God and worship Him. Secondly, it involves bringing those who yearn for the truth before God to accept the judgment and chastisement of God's words and be purified, ultimately achieving salvation. This is the work undertaken by the church as established by God, and it is the significance and value of the church's existence. This is irrelevant to and disconnected from politics, business, industry, technology, or any other sector of society. It is completely unrelated to these things. What then is the essence of God's work of salvation within the church? Put in the simplest and most incisive terms, it is the management of humankind. The specific content of managing humankind involves bringing people before God into the reality of God's words, allowing them to accept God's judgment and chastisement, to be purified and achieve salvation. This is the specific work of managing humankind. Any work that the church engages in is related to God's management, God's plan, and of course, involves the words expressed by God. It has no relation whatsoever to the various jobs undertaken by worldly people. Therefore, any information about the church, whether it concerns its teachings, personnel, administrative structures, the status of its work, or even the church's financial situation, has absolutely no relation to any country, any society, any race, any religion, or any human group, not even the slightest connection. Therefore, with these points in mind, whether it's the ruling party, religious groups, or social groups, their act of dispatching people to monitor the church amounts purely to what?
An unnecessary action.
An unnecessary action is a formal expression. What's the common saying? It's having nothing better to do, right? In my view, it's precisely that. Their days are filled with too much comfort and ease. So they dispatch these few idle individuals to monitor the church, even treating this as a political task, as a serious job. It's utterly absurd. With that effort, opening educational or charitable institutions would be much better. This is just a case of too much fleshly comfort, leading to idleness, not focusing on proper tasks. If the entire human race was like God's church, with God personally shepherding and leading, then this world, this humankind would save a lot on unnecessary institutions, expenses, and troubles. At the very least, agencies like spy organizations and police departments, these security sectors would serve no use and would have to be dissolved and reassigned to other work. The individuals tasked with monitoring the church are on a mission. Their primary task upon infiltrating the church is these few aspects we've fellowshipped. After they grasp a few basic and important situations within the church, they report back to their superiors. Regardless of their thoughts, opinions, or the purpose behind their work, the presence of these monitors within the church should prompt the brothers and sisters to be alert and handle them with wisdom. Is this approach correct? Then, is there any need for excessive alarm?
No.
How should we approach the appearance of such individuals? There are two principles. It's very simple. If they go around inquiring and searching for information, this clearly marks them as a spy or a scout. Such individuals are of extremely vile and presumptuous humanity. They cause serious disturbances to the church. Just their presence causes unrest among people, hindering them from coming before God. Gatherings and the performance of duties are also disturbed and affected, and safety is compromised. How should such a person be handled?
Clear them out of the church.
Correct. If they cause disturbances to church life or the church's work, they should be directly cleansed away. Then, is there any need to hide from them or fear them?
No.
Some people, upon encountering spies overseas, panic and hide everywhere, just as if they had seen the police back in the mainland. When some brothers and sisters go out on errands and encounter spies who ask them questions, and they hear how intimidating the tone of the questioning is, akin to a police interrogation, they get so scared they run away without even completing the errands. I say, how could you be such pushovers? Why run? What is there to fear? In the nation of the Great Red Dragon, so many brothers and sisters were captured but remained unafraid. They did not become Judases. They stood firm in their testimony. Why then, after already coming overseas, can you still be so fearful? You haven't broken any law. What is there to fear? Some people say, they always try to get close to me, and they're always interrogating me. Can't you question them back? You could say, what right do you have to interrogate me? Do I know you? Are you an official of the great red dragon checking IDs? Whom do you represent? Keep asking me questions and I'll sue you. Is there any need to fear them? Some people, upon encountering such spies, dare not speak and quickly flee in fear. Some muddled people can't discern at all and even attempt to preach the gospel to these satanic spies and lapdogs. After a few attempts, they realize this isn't someone who believes God exists. Why do they seem like an official of the great red dragon? Feeling that something is amiss, they give up. Later, they think it over. God is protecting me. Thankfully, I didn't divulge any personal information to them. What a false alarm! They are so scared that they dare not randomly preach the gospel to anyone they meet anymore. In fact, there have indeed been spies who were brought into the church through preaching. They are scouts implanted into the church by the great red dragon. They are deliberately arranged by Satan. They are like wolves in sheep's clothing, infiltrating the church without eating and drinking God's words or fellowshipping the truth, always snooping around for information about the church and prying into personal details. Once it is discovered that their behavior is suspicious, or they have already caused disturbances within the church, they should be promptly cleansed away. The great red dragon scouts, Satan's servants, should absolutely not be allowed to disturb the church. Clear out each one you find. Don't show them any mercy. If anyone gets along well with a spy, always willing to treat the spy kindly out of a sense of love, answering whatever questions are asked, playing the role of a lapdog for the spy, such scum must be directly expelled. Suspicious individuals should be closely watched and observed. Not a single detail about the church should be disclosed to them, especially not who the leaders and workers are. If a spy is allowed to gain any information, it could present a hidden threat or disaster to the church and the brothers and sisters at any time. Therefore, when someone is found to be suspicious, as long as they never eat and drink God's words or fellowship the truth, they are definitely a disbeliever, and it is correct to immediately clear them out. Even if such a person is not a spy, they are not a good person, and clearing them out is in no way unjust. If anyone is found to be in close association with a spy and capable of betraying the church, they should be immediately cleared out under any circumstances. Such scum and scoundrel can only bring disaster to the church and the brothers and sisters. They are even worse than watchdogs. Even if they do not commit evil deeds, they must still be cleared out. Now, the great red dragon is on the verge of collapse, but they are unwilling to accept their defeat and destruction. They continue to arrest and persecute God's chosen people and conduct spy operations to infiltrate God's house. Their disturbing and sabotaging of the church's work has never ceased. Now, some obviously suspicious individuals have been exposed. Their attempts to gather information have caused a stir, making it easy for others to see through them. Once they have exposed themselves, they are cleared out by the church. But have all the cunning spies been exposed? No way. It's possible for churches everywhere to be infiltrated by the great red dragon's agents. Some individuals, after being captured by the great red dragon, are coerced through threats, temptations, and various other means by Satan to act on their behalf and then infiltrate the church. These are the hidden spies. Such scouts are treacherous and sly, possessing some shrewdness and intellect. In the words of non-believers, they have some capability. When monitoring the church, they do so inconspicuously, acting quietly and covertly, never revealing their true intentions in their interactions. Most people don't sense anything when interacting with them. They are not aware that the spy is gathering information, nor do they feel the spy's revulsion toward believing in God. The spy may have already grasped the church's basic situation before most people even realize they are there to monitor the church. On the outside, such individuals do not cause any disturbance to the church or to most people. So how should they be handled? Should we take any measures or solutions to address their monitoring of the church? As mentioned earlier, does the church fear their monitoring in any aspect? The existence of our church and the various items of work it engages in are open and above board. These items of work are the most just causes among humankind. If any organization wants to understand any aspect of the church's experiential testimonies are publicly broadcast online. Everyone can view them as they like. There are no secrets, no illegal activities, and certainly no disruptions to social order or contrary speech or actions. Thus, if they secretly investigate and monitor the church's situation, then let them be. Why do I say this? These individuals, working as agents, possess a certain professional standard, and ordinary people cannot detect what exactly the tasks they perform behind the scenes are. So, as long as they do not cause disturbances, there's no need to bother with them. Just let them be. Moreover, these disbelievers, atheists, and politically engaged individuals are not accustomed to nor interested in church life. In the church, where every day people read God's words, accept judgment and chastisement, and discuss knowing oneself, knowing God, and dispositional transformation, how could they not feel as if on pins and needles or undergoing torment? In every gathering, they are as restless as ants on a hot pan. They feel unwilling to force themselves to stay in the church. They understand in their hearts that the church is just a church, and absolutely not a politically engaged organization. By monitoring and learning about the church, and becoming aware of what exactly it does, they become educated about the fact that God reigns sovereign over all things and over the fate of humankind, broadening their horizons to not live so ignorantly. They too are created beings, yet they do not even know that man is created by God, which shows how foolish and insignificant they are. Is there any risk in letting them stay in the church? If they pose no threat or disturbance to the church or the brothers and sisters, then let them be. Once they do something that causes a disturbance, that's their moment of exposure, and that's the right time to handle them. Based on facts and evidence, promptly discern and characterize them. Their mission comes to an end, and the church naturally expels them. Is this approach good? Some people ask, isn't the work of the church open and above board? Why restrict people's monitoring? This is mainly aimed at the regime of the great red dragon, Satan. Its monitoring of the church is for the purpose of suppression, arrest, and harming God's chosen people. Therefore, God's house does not allow its monitoring in order to prevent God's chosen people from suffering persecution and slaughter. If individuals from democratic countries or religious groups come to investigate the true way, they can look it up online or contact the church. The church receives anyone who sincerely seeks the truth. But if the other party harbors ill intentions and seeks to distort right and wrong and slander the church, how could God's house allow their monitoring? Would it not be extremely stupid to allow their monitoring? Wouldn't it be foolish and ignorant? God's house has always welcomed those seeking the truth and warmly receives them, which is completely in accordance with God's intentions. If people do not get this, then it is due to their foolishness and ignorance. The church's external policy is open and above board, fully aligns with the truth principles, and is imbued with intelligence and wisdom. If someone cannot comprehend these positive things, then they are an absurd person, a muddled person. Some people say, if scouts or Satan's servants come to learn about the church, should we be honest people and answer their questions truthfully? Telling the truth to devils and Satans is stupid. This does not make one an honest person, but turns one into a lapdog of Satan. When Satan's kind wish to learn about and grasp the church's situations, God's chosen people have no responsibility to tell them. They cannot accept the truth and have no goodwill, so we have nothing to say to them. Doing this is not being impetuous, but wise. Some people ask, if they ask me, who leads your church? How many years have they believed? Can I tell them? You should ask them, what's your purpose in knowing about our leader? Tell me first, I'll think it over, and then decide whether to inform you or not. Is this answer wise? This is called acting according to principles. Do you understand? As the gospel work spreads, and the number of people in the church gradually increases, scouts and agents may appear in churches across different countries and regions from time to time. For such individuals, simply notifying God's chosen people to handle them wisely will suffice. If it's found that they cause disturbances or disruptions, they should then be promptly cleared out. Most people should have some understanding and discernment of the way these agents speak and act, or of their demeanor, and will definitely have some awareness or perception when interacting with them. If only a few brothers and sisters in a church notice such individuals, but are not certain if they are spies or scouts, then they should be treated cautiously and with a wise approach. If most people have noticed, they can inform each other and take precautionary measures. If the suspected spies show no friendliness toward the church or the brothers and sisters, constantly seeking to entrap the brothers and sisters and disturb the church, and always looking for evidence with which to discredit the church, even going so far as to take photos or recordings of the brothers and sisters, or use enticement and temptation to extract information they wish to know. Such individuals, once discovered, cannot be allowed to go unchecked. They must be promptly cleared out of the church. You might not have encountered these situations before, so I'm giving you a heads up in advance. This is about broadening your understanding, about knowing humankind, society, politics, and the world. It's just that dark and that evil. Regarding the ninth purpose one has for believing in God, to monitor the church, this concludes the fellowship on the basic content. Has everything been clearly fellowshipped? What are the contents that those who monitor the church aim to monitor?
The church's teachings, personnel situations, work conditions, and financial status.
Basically, these 4 areas are what most concern them. What do these 4 aspects involve? They involve what they are most worried about: the impact of the church's presence on society, the nation, and the religious community. They are also worried that the church might use religion as a guise to engage in politics and overthrow the government, viewing this as the greatest hidden danger. Thus, they suppress, persecute, and ban the church, and arrest its members. The nation of the Great Red Dragon bans all religious beliefs. Some countries ban certain beliefs, and most countries fear the truth holding power, and fear the people accepting the truth, which threatens their rule. In short, the more a place has God working and expressing the truth, and the more a church has the work of the Holy Spirit, then the more likely they are to be monitored and viewed with hostility by various governments. Therefore, governments often send agents disguised as people investigating the true way to learn about and grasp the church's situation, in order to monitor all the church's dynamics. Additionally, they attempt to grasp the trends of the church's work, to see whether the church is involved in politics, whether it is participating in some political activities under the guise of conducting church work, or whether it has any connections with overseas religious forces, among other concerns. These are what they wish to grasp and are worried about. Furthermore, the financial situation of the church is also something they want to grasp. They ponder, this church has grown in numbers of people and developed rapidly. Where does their money come from? Which organizations or wealthy individuals are donating to them? In short, there is nothing we might not think of that they haven't considered. Why? Because they are evil. They are evil humans. Their attempts to grasp the church's situation stem from their immense worry about the church's existence, fearing that the church might influence more people, which would pose a threat to their rule. This is precisely what they are concerned about regarding the church. No matter how just or legitimate the work undertaken by the church is, they still do not believe. Why? Because they are disbelievers, atheists, and materialists. What materialists can do is just this. These are the 4 situations they worry about. We just fellowshipped 2 principles concerning the appropriate way to handle such individuals, after having understood the reasons and objectives behind their worries about these 4 situations. Give a simple summary of these principles and speak on them.
If they cause disturbances in the church, then cleanse them away. If they do not cause disturbances, there's no need to bother with them.
If they cause disturbances, snooping around everywhere and causing panic, then cleanse them away without mercy. If they do not cause disturbances, and most people do not notice or cannot discern them, then ignore them. Once they see clearly that this is indeed church work, all religious activities, and not at all involved in politics, just confirming this point will make them leave on their own. This is the approach democratic countries use to understand religious situations. It was also mentioned earlier that humankind is very complex. What is the reason for the complexity of humankind? Is it not derived from the evil of humankind? How did humankind's evil originate? Why say that humankind is evil? It's because Satan has corrupted humankind too deeply. How is it said in plain language? It's that Satan has turned people into demons. All of humankind is under the rule of devils, with too many big and small devils. So places where people gather have become cities of demons. When there are many demons gathering together, it becomes complex. They are capable of committing all kinds of evil deeds and engaging in all sorts of nefarious activities. Because all devils are evil, and there is always strife among them, and they can never be compatible with each other, this complicates matters. When people who genuinely believe in God come together, it's much simpler. They are all willing to read God's words and live church life, and they all enjoy doing their duties and engaging in proper tasks. They don't participate in crooked and nefarious activities. At most, they might reveal some corruption. Only such people can achieve salvation through faith in God. Devils can never be saved through faith in God because a leopard can't change its spots. Even if devils believed in God for decades or centuries, they would not change, which is a fact visible to all. Now, many churches have cleansed away those who are devils, which is a good thing and completely accords with God's intentions. In some churches, half of the people are devils, while in others, a minority are devils. Is it easy to carry out the work of the church in such churches? Certainly not. If the devils are cleansed away, leaving only corrupted humankind, church work becomes much easier to do. The most pitiable situation is when false leaders or antichrists hold power in some churches, with devils taking the leadership role. Then, God's chosen people in those churches are really afflicted. Tell me, can false leaders or antichrists holding power bring peace and joy to God's chosen people? The thoughts and ideas of false leaders and antichrists are entirely evil and contrary to the truth. If there are 10 or 20 living demons supporting them, living in such a church is like living in a place where demons congregate, in a den of demons controlled by a devil king. It's akin to living inside a meat grinder, causing unrest to your mind and spirit. Every day, what occupies your thoughts are things like whom to fight or struggle against, whom to befriend and get close to, whom to avoid and guard against, and so on. You don't even have an environment of peace, living in constant fear and trepidation without a shred of tranquility. Isn't this like being in a meat grinder? This evil society, this evil humankind, treats everyone and every group or organization in the same way, applying the same opinions and viewpoints to all. Similarly, they are uneasy even toward the church, an institution that is relatively positive, not sparing it. Regardless, the manner in which we treat them is principled, right? One's ninth purpose for believing in God, monitoring the church, has now been fully fellowshipped, and all of the content of the first category of the 14th responsibility of leaders and workers has also been basically fellowshipped. The summary of the purposes of these disbelievers and atheists in their belief in God basically encompasses these points. The last purpose, fellowshipped, differs slightly from the previous ones in content. When those who monitor the church infiltrate the church, they are not chasing after a meal ticket, status, or conveniences in life and work, but come with political purposes. Regardless of their purposes, once we see through and discern them, we should promptly take appropriate action, clearing out or expelling these individuals, absolutely not allowing them to lurk in the church for long. This is an important task for the leaders and workers. Based on their purpose of believing in God, discern and determine who are the true brothers and sisters, God's chosen people, and who are the various kinds of evil people that the church should clear out or expel. Promptly identify these evil people, and then promptly adopt a corresponding approach to clear them out or expel them. This is the first category of discerning and categorizing various types of evil people. One's purpose for believing in God. We finished our fellowship on it,